Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another exciting conversation with two women. They're going to give us information about their journey through breast cancer. And my name is Glenda Woolfolk, and I'm the CEO founder of the No Sister Left Behind nonprofit organization, and I'm glad to be here.
And I'm Linda Factory. I'm the treasurer of No Sister Left Behind, and it's so good to be back with you all tonight and look forward to hearing some information that will definitely help me and I'm sure others.
Yes, hi, and welcome. I am Pam Walker, and I'm the Vice President of No Sister Left Behind, and I've missed you. So welcome. We're going to have a great program tonight that I know will help someone.
Excellent. Well, come on in. We got Christine King. She's always the first one. Christine, I want to congratulate you for always being the first one. We appreciate you and we love you. We're going to move forward. We have two ladies here that I admire so much. Tammy Fanning and Sherry Harrison. I'm glad that they're here tonight. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about the topic of tonight's live is breast cancer surviving the storm. And I call it a storm because it's something that you go through, something that we never may think that we have to go through, but to have two women here to tell us about their experience of going through breast cancer. So, and this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our job as NSLB is to bring you more information about things that pertain to Black women and Black women's health. So we're excited to have these two ladies here. So I'm going to tell Tammy to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Tammy Fanning. I have a husband of 38 years. I have 8 children. I have 6 grandchildren. And I am a breast cancer survivor of 13 years.
Hey. All right, Miss Sherry.
I'm Sherry Harrison. I'm married to my husband, Rodney, for over 42 years. We have 2 daughters, 3 grandkids, and we're currently raising our great niece and great nephew, a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, triple negative, in 2006 at the age of 44.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sherry, for sharing that. We thank you, ladies, again for being here. And we're going to start with our questions today. But the first question I have, I'm going to ask the ladies to explain to us how they found out when they got cancer and tell us a little bit about their journey. So, Tammy, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to go with Sherry.
In 2008, in June of 2008, I felt a lump in my breast. I found my own lump in my breast. I had actually had a mammogram a couple of months prior to, and then I found a lump in my breast. And so I contacted my doctor and was telling him about, me finding a lump in my breast. And he said, "Oh, we already doing tests." So they were doing tests, and they had me to go in for an ultrasound. And so I went in for an ultrasound, and I asked the lady, I said, "Well, I feel it right here. You didn't get really right here." And she said, "Oh, I checked it." And I said, "Okay, And then she said, they're going to do a cone mammogram. And so they went to do that. So I finally asked the lady, I was like, "What are you looking for? Because I can feel it with my hand. So what are you guys looking for?" And they said, "Oh, we're looking for something deep in your breast." And I said, "Well, I'm talking about something that I can feel." And so she said, "Well, it's so high. Won't you have the doctor do a ultrasound of your chest?" And so I was like, "Well, if I lift up, it's actually my breast." So, but they didn't really pay attention to what I was saying. But I had went to the doctor like 3 times. And so that 3rd time I was just like, okay, I'm not leaving here until somebody find what I'm looking for. And so I called the doctor's office and had them to ask for a chest ultrasound, and they did it immediately. And soon as she did, she found that I had 2 lumps in my breast. And so she called the radiologist in, and he came in and he looked, and they were talking. And I said, "Okay, well, somebody tell me something because I can hear you guys talking." And he said, "Well, we found 2 lumps and we need to get a biopsy on them." And so I end up getting a biopsy. And then on the 13th of September, they told me that it was cancerous. We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You know, I've heard your story a few times, and it always amazes me how you tell it by first pointing out that you noticed it yourself, and then they couldn't find it till later, but they wouldn't really listen to you. They wouldn't really listen to you. Do you have anything to say about women being persistent and making sure that the doctor listens to you?
Yes, I mean, that was really something that was really making me really upset, is because nobody was listening. I called my gynecologist. I told them, they didn't listen. I called my primary care. Actually, I was having some heart palpitations, and I ended up going to the emergency room, so I had to see my primary care. But when I went in, I said, hey, you're here to see me for this, but I need to let you know that I feel something in my breast and nobody's listening to me. And he just immediately was like, well, I'm here to see you for something else. And so you just have to get with your gynecologist with that. And so it was really a struggle for me to just literally just be so upset that I just start having really being upset with the people that I'm talking to. And so I called and nobody would answer. I think I called the doctor's office like 21 times before anybody was even listening to me. And I was like, but the Lord just kept it on my heart. Don't stop doing what you're doing, because I need you to continue to tell them that something is wrong, And so finally, after the test came back, I started calling my doctor and my primary care doctor, and they were like, well, you can't talk to him right now. I said, I'm not getting off the phone until I talk to my doctor and my primary. Well, I didn't have to talk to my primary care doctor because he actually called me on a Sunday to apologize. After he found out that I had cancer, he called and he apologized. He said, I am so sorry because I was unprofessional with that, and he was just talking to me. And I said, you know what, my struggle right now is just to get through. I'm not trying to sue nobody. I just want to get through, and I appreciate you calling me and, apologizing. But, if I hadn't listened with the at stage 3, and they had found one a little lower into my lymph nodes, I probably would be dead today, because I would have just took what they said instead of just kept pushing myself to go back and saying, no, something's wrong.
Wow, my goodness. Being persistent. Thanks, Tammy, for sharing that. And Sherry, we're going to ask you to do share as well, dear.
Well, I was diagnosed in March of 2006. I had a mammogram in January of 2006. And I, too, like Tammy, found mine. However, it was a lump. It was the size of a marble under my armpit on my left side. When I turned over in the bed, that's what it felt like, a marble. So I scheduled an appointment with my doctor. At that time, she didn't feel it. She thought it was the muscle ridge and stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, I walked out feeling, okay, I'm tripping. Nobody in my family has breast cancer. I'm okay. But I had been on birth control for years. And it was right at that time where they were telling everybody to get off the birth control because it can contribute to breast cancer. Okay. Well, by the 3rd day, I felt that same lump, and it was just prominent. I called her right away. She did a mammo that day. The same day, I had a biopsy, and I found out the next day. And I too was stage 3, triple negative breast cancer. So none of the traditional hormone treatments worked for me. As a result, from 2006 to 2013, I had 5 additional reoccurrences. So at some point, I was either on chemo, IV, chemo oral, or having radiation, if not both, at the same time. I've developed medical problems as a result of all of that. But you have to be your own advocate. You have to push and tell them, because you know what's wrong with your body. Right. I walked out the first time feeling like I was tripping. But then once it came back, I knew for sure that it wasn't me. Now, when they did the biopsy, they did it in a node that they found from the scan in my breast, which I didn't feel that. I felt the lymph node in my armpit. That right there was an indicator it had already spread to my armpits, also the lymph nodes.
Wow.
So, if I would have waited like Tammy and pushed it off, who knows? And being triple negative and having it come back 5 additional times, I've just been determined to fight. I wasn't ready. I was 44 when I was diagnosed, and in 4 months I'll be 60. I still am not ready. And so if I'm scheduled to have another scan, because again, every time that they've reoccurred, either I found them or the PET scan found them. My blood test, the tumor marker, have always been within normal range, so they could never gauge it off of that. All of the scans that I've had never caught it. So it's always been a PET scan, or it's always been me. And for the first few years, I mean, in my sleep, I was touchy-feely all over me, you know.
Wow, yeah.
It's like stuck in my mind, you know. And I'm now at a position I've been NED, which they call it no evidence of the disease, since 2013. I'm blessed for that. Yeah. I know it's not finished, and I've got other things to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Sher, for sharing that. You know what? Can you tell us the 5 different times that you had the reoccurrences? Were they also breast related as well?
They were all breast related. They were in my left channel on the left side. So I've had 2 reoccurrences in my left supraclavicle area. The first one I just had chemo because he stated that it was too close to my artery right there. And that held about 8 months. I wouldn't go until like 18 months, sometimes 8 months before a reoccurrence occurred. So I could never make it to my 2 years. The other ones were hilar, which within my lymph nodes in my chest area, in my lymph nodes in my arm, the left side. So everything has been associated with the left side. I've had a couple of scares where they thought it was in my bones, but those have come back negative. I've never attached to anything, so I thank God for that. But because it has spread beyond the original, it's still, they consider that metastatic.
Okay. So, now, you said earlier about you never reached your 2 years. Now, what does that mean when you say you never reached your 2 years?
Well, statistically, what they'll tell you is if you've reached 2 years after treatment of being clear of cancer, then you can kind of say that you're going to go into a cancer-free mode. You're a survivor then. And I could never get to that point before it reoccurred. And like I says, I've had reconstruction surgery. It failed. I ended up with MRSA. I ended up with a couple other infections. I've had multiple surgeries, and I got to the point where it scared me because of the reoccurrence so much. The last surgery, I just had them remove both. I just didn't want to go through that anymore. You know, I've already had my other female parts taken away a long time ago. So I just didn't want to risk it anymore. And I kind of felt that having that birth control, which is hormones, in my system for so many years, helped contribute to it. Because at that time, nobody in my family had it. You know, nobody I could trace. But then when I got sick, I started doing ancestry. And I've located my biological father's family. And through that, I've also discovered my siblings. And I discovered that I had a niece that had breast cancer and an aunt. And then my subsequently older sister developed it after we met. So, you know, even though I did the genetic testing, it was negative. I'm glad I made that connection and found that link, because still on my mother's side, there's no linkage.
Wow. That was good.
I have 2 girls. I want them to be aware.
That's right. That's good. Thank you, Sherry, for sharing that. Thank you so much. Wow. So are you still in contact with your family? Your sister?
Yes, I am. My brother, who was from LA, he passed away 2 years ago. Okay. I have a sister in Houston, and I have one in Denver. I was able to go see and visit them for the first times. I was able to attend a family reunion from Carlsbad, New Mexico, where they're from. And I got really close to my uncles. I see a lot of me in them. So I made that connection. I felt so at ease, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah, I bet. Thank you for sharing that. My next question is, I think I don't think I've even asked you the first question. Ladies, can each of you tell us your story? You told us that. How did you feel when you were first diagnosed? How did you feel?
Well, my first thought was, who was going to take care of my kids and my husband? That was actually my first thought. It was basically who was going to take care of my family if I should pass away from cancer. You know, because you always hear about cancer, but you don't know the details if you didn't have family members that had it, or somebody around you who had it, or, you know, I was one that I was like, nobody in my family ever had cancer, you know, so I didn't know anything about it. And then I found out later that some of my dad's family had cancer, and my aunt, I think she had breast cancer right after I did later on. But prior to then, I didn't know anybody who had it. So, you always say, think cancer, that's, uh, um, that's almost like an end time, and so you start thinking mentally, you start thinking about that. And when I had mine, it was, it was already considered third stage because I had two. I had two tumors, and they say usually people don't have two tumors. They usually have one and then metastasized, but I had two. So I had the two. And then, after I had my surgery and they were removing my breast, the doctor said, something told me to take that lymph node, which is not the lymph node that they normally take. It's a lymph node. When they normally take it, they take it out of your arm. They take that main one that it goes through to get to the other ones. But they didn't find mine, so they were negative with my lymph nodes. But when he was doing the surgery, he took a lymph node and he said, I just tested it. Something told me to take it. And I just said, well, that was God telling you to take it. And so he took it and it was positive. So they only found out because he sent it in. It wasn't a normal thing. So, my first thing is I had a lot to be afraid of. But then at some point, and I can't remember exactly when that was, I didn't think about it anymore. I didn't think about death. I just thought about, I got to go through this chemo. They already told me what it's going to be about. And I gotta struggle and fight for this, my life. And so at some point, God gave me the mindset not to even think about death. I mean, when I was going through my chemo, when I first started, I never thought about death again. It was just that first instant when they gave it to me, because even when the doctor gave it to me and he said, you have cancer. And I said, oh, okay, and he was just like, are you okay? He's asking me all these questions. But at that time, I didn't think about it then. I thought about it later after I went home. But I just said, okay, well, what do we do next? And so, but my biggest thing was who was going to take care of my family. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Thanks. Thank you, Tammy. I know I'm horrible about that. How did you feel, dear?
I was devastated at first. Like I said, nobody in my family had it. And I was only 44. I was in my promotional route through the department that I worked in. And so that was the last thing from my mind. It floored me. But I went through all the stages of emotion, of the anger, the why me, what did I do? And then when it got down to it, I'm fighting straight out. I told the doctor, get it out. I immediately had a breast mastectomy because I didn't want to play around with no lumpectomy. I wanted it out. And I just felt like if I got it out, then I can know where I'm going. I was so articulate with and really involved in my care that I wanted to know what was my steps. I set my plan. I needed to know, okay, once we get this done, what am I going to do next? I didn't think about reconstruction. I wanted to get the chemo, get it over with, get me there. And not knowing that I would have to do that on multiple occasions throughout the first couple, few years of my life. But I was always determined each time. And as I think it was my fifth time, I was to the point where I was like, here's my arm, do the IV, whatever, because the will to live was stronger than the give. And I figured if I went through the radiation and I went through that red devil chemo, I can do it again. I can do it again. And that was basically my mindset, was just, hey, what's next? I still pray that I still keep that mindset when it really comes down to it. But I know that I'm not ready. And I know that he has a plan. So I was more, I guess I'm past the grieving part. I'm the acceptance part. I'm considering myself a thriver. He left me here for a reason.
I love the ladies' answers. Y'all just encouraging me. I don't even have it yet. I don't have it, but I'm very much encouraged by just listening to both of you. I've always known Tammy's story, but she tells it in such a way that just encourages me. And I haven't even addressed it yet, but she's, encouraged me. So I thank you too as well, Sherry. Love it. I love it. Y'all gonna make me cry. Question number two. What is the one thing you wish you knew before you started treatment? Is there anything you wish you knew before you started treatment?
I think for myself, it was more of, I wished I would have known more detail about what was going to happen with your body, what was going to happen with your mindset, what was going to happen with the things that you may go through. And, you know, you knew that you were going to take chemo, but you didn't know chemo was going to may put you in the hospital. You didn't know you was going to look like this. You didn't know things were going to happen, you know. So I think if I would like to have known more. When you have cancer of the breast, you know, you have all these different decisions to make. You know, it's like, for me, I did a lumpectomy first, and they wanted to go back and take out. He told me, he said, you know, Tammy, I think I should take a little bit more because I might have left something, and I'm not for sure. So I want to take a little bit more. And then at that time, I said, no, let's just do the mastectomy and forget about it. So, you know, you have different choices that you can take. You can, you know, you have such a wide variety of what you can take.
Yeah.
And so I wished I would have known different stages of, do I want to just go straight with that? Do I want to have a implant? Do I want to have, you know, and then you got to remember at the same time when you're doing all of those things that you think, oh, I'll get an implant, that's it.
Wow.
With cancer, you go through a whole bunch of different surgeries. You have surgery after surgery just to reconstruct what you need. And so when women think that they went in and you did an implant, that was it. No, it's an implant, and you have to make sure this is done, and then you got to have another surgery to do this. And so it takes a quite a bit of time. So I wished I would have known everything prior to, then you could have made a better decision. You know what I mean? A better decision than just saying, oh, I just want that. You know what I mean?
Wow. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, Miss Sherry.
I think my problem was because I had worked in the medical field, I knew basically that I wanted it out. I didn't want to dilly-dally and wait around. What I wish I would have known, though, was I had a choice of having immediate reconstruction. No one told me that. And as a result, I waited, and I had 2 other reoccurrences that required radiation, which damaged my breast tissue. So when I did have reconstruction, it kept opening up. It failed because the tissue was damaged so bad. And that's how I ended up with MRSA. But if I would have known my options in the beginning, because again, maybe it was my fault by saying I just want it out without thinking about what other options could I have. If I would have known now, that's what I would have looked at, because then I would have been at least had a fighting chance to be able to have some breast. You know, not saying that I would go backwards to do it again. Nah, it's done, you know, but that's what I wish I would have known, because I educated myself probably too much on the cancer, because I'm so computer, and then the medical part of me I had to back away from that because again, all the side effects, I knew, and I kind of anticipated with that in mind, because I knew. I didn't complain to my doctors like I should have. I suffered a little bit more than I should have. You know, and that was probably my downfall, by doing too much research and kind of anticipating what's going to happen. But out of all this, like I said, it doesn't hurt to educate yourself. But one thing I wish I would have done was to focus on immediate reconstruction. But I think time was of the essence in my mind.
Okay.
And
Can
one
I ask
thing
you?
that I want I would like everybody to kind of recognize is, when you're going through chemo, we all think that you're going to be sick. You're all going to be, you know, you're going to be just literally too sick to do anything. But they have medicine to help you when you get sick. Wow. And I think if we would have known that prior to, we would have been able to say, doctor, we're getting sick. But we assumed that we were going to be sick, so there was no reason to tell him we were sick. You know, so, but once we were able to understand that, it was like, you know, when I get chemo, I go home and I'm so sick I can't even function. My body just is dry heaving and I'm just sick. And then he said, oh, I could give you something for that. Wow. And I'm like, really?
Now
I asked. But now at that point of my first chemo, I was done. I didn't even want chemo no more. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to do it ever again. Wow. But all I had to do was tell him I was sick, and he would give me some medicine to help me not be sick when I get home. And so I think it's a lot of what we mentally already hear. And we think that we shouldn't tell him that because he already knows, so we shouldn't have to. But yeah, I think women should all know that, when you're sick, the doctor can give you something to stop you from getting sick. Now, I won't say you won't never get sick, but you would have the ability not to be dry heaving when you
don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
And I think that's lessons that we've learned.
Yeah.
So what about a support system? Did you have a support system or an advocate?
Well, in the beginning for me,
process?
My mother was my biggest support system. For years, I've been an only child. So my mother went to every appointment with me, my mother and my dad. When I was sick, like I says, they knew that I couldn't tolerate smelling it. So what they would get for me is something like Wendy's, a little kid meal, just a turkey sandwich and a bread, with nothing on it, because they knew that I couldn't even stand it. But I went to a support group with other ladies. But to be honest, the first time I was scared. It really scared me because they go around and they tell their stories, and some of them had multiple times. And at that time, I was only on my one time. And so to hear other ladies talk about how it came back and that it spread, it scared me. So I didn't go for a while because that was not my mindset. I didn't want to think, even though it was starting to happen to me, I still didn't want to think that I was going to live like that. And so I had to keep my head straight for a little while and just let that go and just depend on my mom, my girls, and my friends. And people like Tammy, like I said, we got connected right after each other.
Wow.
So was there anyone that came along and said, you know what, you're going to experience this after chemo? Are you going to experience a burn after radiation? Use this cream? Or did you have anybody in your circle like that?
Not really. Not at that particular time. We didn't. I mean, I had a support system. I mean, my family, my church, everybody was my support system at that time.
But they don't know.
And they didn't know, they would only be a support. They wasn't really been through it, so we didn't really know anybody who had been through it, and could give you those details. It's just like I was one of the ones who did chemo, and each chemo they gave me, whatever they say you could get, I got. It wasn't like, oh, your tongue gonna turn black and you're gonna be in the hospital. I did it all. I mean, it was whatever they said it was. It happened to my body. So my body went through different changes, and I didn't get a chance to do all my chemo when I did what we call red devil, because it's some bad stuff.
Just consider drinking Drano.
Yeah, right there, I couldn't take it all. They said you go take 4 treatments of that, and I think I did 3. And then the next medication they gave me, they said you go do 4. I did 2. He was like, I have to take you off. Your body is just. So I wasn't able to do the chemo, the full round of chemo, but he said that I think I've given you enough that you'll survive, and so that's what I did. But we didn't have anybody to tell us, do this. I did start at times people saying, when you had the bad taste, the metallic and all of that, they said, oh, just suck on a piece of candy and things like that, because they just kind of knew that, because you can do that with medication when you take different medications. So I had people to do that, but to tell you the full, somebody that had been through breast cancer, or somebody who had known somebody that was able to help you through it, it was more of, this our first time, and we just got to roll with whatever we get.
And I think because Bakersfield didn't have like the big cancer centers where they gave out all those educational, where they gave you a care team. Because even with me with the radiation, I had radiation twice in the same areas. And the first time, by the second time, I had 2nd and 3rd degree burns. I woke up one morning and felt like somebody had a torch under my breast. And when I woke up, it was a bubble. It was just a bubble. I would ask the pharmacist, what do you put on it? The doctor, everything. But even doing the research, it's like nobody really knows. So there was not an adequate, I feel, a care team, but also nobody for women of color, because our skins and dynamics is so different. Even with the hair loss and, the eyebrows. I lost all of my hair. I don't have to shave on my left side. I don't grow hair back, in the eyebrows area. I've lost all my hair. And even though they may have been reluctant to say that I have chemo alopecia, I had hair prior. So when it grew back at the crown, just like a bozo. The top is just smooth, you know. So, you know, they don't tell you all of those things. You know, they didn't even tell us then that the possibility your hair is going to come back. If it is, it may be thin or none of that. And a lot of that, I think, is because there's lack of diversity in this town when it comes to young Black females with breast cancer. Because I think there was only 2 of us in our support group, and I was the youngest in my support group that I would go to. You know, and so I just wish that there was something that we can develop for the youngers, because the older ladies, especially the minorities in our generation, they were reluctant to talk about breast cancer. We just knew some of ours may have had surgery or whatever, but they didn't talk about it. I have no shame to my game now. This is who I am. And if I can prevent someone from going through what I did, that's my job.
Yes.
You know, I'm here to help. And, and a lot of people don't get their breast checked, don't go for a mammogram. They don't even check themselves, so they don't know the density of their breast. You know, that's something that we can do ourselves. Get to know your body.
And most of us found ours on our own. So if we wasn't checking, we wouldn't even have known. You know, I just happened to get a pain and I went like this.
Yes.
And then that was one of the things you had heard too, that when somebody get cancer, you can't feel it.
Right.
They always say you can't feel it. It don't hurt. It's not, you know, you're not supposed to feel it. But that's how I found mine, because it was hurting. And I just kind of like, that hurt. And then I was like, well, that feels different, you know, and it was a little higher, like, you know. And so it's a lot of statistics and things that we don't know about, that we haven't really picked up. Because I sit back and look now and say, I've been doing this team praying for a cure for I don't know how many years. But then I think about how many years they had it right over there across the street from my house, and I never knew what they were doing. I never even paid any attention to it because it wasn't about me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't about nobody I knew. So nobody ever told me what they were doing over there. So I'm saying it's information out there, but we don't have that information because we're not passing it on. We're not talking to people. You know, even for me, if I see somebody walk down the street and they got their phone and they up here, I'll stop them and say, you know, I'm not going to say it's true, but where my cancer is where I had my phone at. And I had my phone there 24/7. Even when I was talking on it, I had my earplugs in and it was on. I said, so I'm just letting you know that it may not be good to put it there, you know. And so before, when I had told my doctor, I said, I think it's from the phone because I have 2 and you're not supposed to have 2. And I said, it's right in the area that I put it. And he was like, no, I don't think so. But years later, when the younger girls start getting it, then they say, oh yeah, that may be where it's from. You know, so we have to be like, sometimes we don't want to tell people because we don't know them. Right. You know, I just figure a way to get up under them and say, hey, you know, and try to give them that information on what I know. You know, it's like, I don't know if it's true, but if it is, you're causing yourself to harm to your body. You know?
And in comparison to me, I never carried my phone there because I didn't really have breast from the get-go. So I never did. But I honestly believe that it was the birth control. You know, because again, they started doing that recall on them because they're suggesting that they're higher linked to breast cancer. And it was shortly thereafter I told the doctor, I says, you know, I've been on birth control because of this going on. I'm going to stop. I'm going to get off. You know, I got my tubes tied, but again, it was already, you know, in the system, in the works, you know.
And also what they give you when you go through menopause, the little pills, whatever they give you. Hormones. Hormones. They're not good for your body either. Because they said that I was estrogen level from my in my body. So, you know, you can get it from all kind of different things. So you just have to be watchful of what you're doing with your body and know your body and know if something's different and keep fighting and pushing. You know, if nobody's listening, go to somebody else, talk to somebody else, and, you know, and continue on because we don't know what goes on inside our bodies.
But we do notice something different.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent, ladies. There I go with my mic again. Question number 3. Those are excellent answers because there is something different between Black women and women of other races when we come up with cancer and all these detrimental diseases that are out there. And I think that's what we as an organization want to make sure that we know our side, you know, we know our side, and that we know that there's differences. I think we had Miss Terry McClanahan was on earlier part of this year, and she talked about how they did a test on her through her pelvic area, and they did it wrong because on Black women you have to do it different because of the hips. And she said she experienced so much pain because of that. And see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Right.
Even,
So that's
even
why you have to ask for specialists.
Right. And even with you ladies talking tonight, talking about the differences in how our hair falls out and the things that happen to our bodies because we're women of color. And we really don't know those things. So I really appreciate you ladies for coming on and letting us know. And that's what it's all about, sharing information and let other women know. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
I'm going to question number 3. What is your biggest self-discovery or revelation after you were diagnosed? What is your biggest self-discovery or revelation after you were diagnosed?
Well, I'm going to say perseverance, that the strength. I recognize that I'm stronger than what I ever thought I was, because I was diagnosed with triple negative. Triple negative had a higher rate in women of color. And the rate, that because it's also an aggressive cancer, meaning that it would come back. There were no doctors within this area that specialized in that. I took it upon myself to do the research and find my own doctor at Stanford. Gave it to my primary care and my oncologist here in Bakersfield, say, here, this is who I wanted to see. So what you learn is that you really got to take charge of your own care. And it may have been easy for me because I came from a medical background. I also worked as an HR manager, so therefore I was not afraid to ask questions. I mean, I got to the point where I asked flat out, because they don't tell you. I asked them flat out, am I dying? How long do I got? Even though that's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, I needed to know. I needed to prepare myself. And when he told me, oh, there's treatment, but there isn't for triple negative. I had to do chemo or radiation. But even when I went to the specialist, I was still on the right path. The right medication that he was giving me was the right path. So you get determined. You get the strength that you realize you have. The will to live, as I say, is stronger than the give. And when you think you're down, sometimes don't bother me today. I got to go through my day, but I'll be back tomorrow. And you realize that you got to allow yourself that time so that you can heal. And I've gotten, I think, more keen insight into what I need. We give, as mothers, we give, everybody is first and we're always last. And when you have something like this happen, you've got to realize and understand that without you, none of this other things can happen. So you have to take care of yourself in order to keep things going. And that's what I realized is the strength to keep going, despite everything that's going on mentally, because I've had brain fog, the chemo fog, anxiety, but you've got to learn how to cope and find a coping skill that you can do. And that's one thing that I'm learning still as we go.
And I think for me, myself is just keep going. Don't let it tear you down, because mentally you can be torn down by it, because you hear of all the statistics and all the things, and your cancer is aggressive and you're already at stage 3, and they're giving you all this information, and your mind just start to boggle you, and you start to think. But my thing was, I gotta live, and I gotta keep living. I can't keep, people would say, they would watch me go in and go to the doctor or do different things. But I went to the doctor by myself. When it was time for chemo, I just went. It's like, I'm going to the doctor like I normally do. You know what I mean? So, it was like, oh, you want me to go? No, I'm going to be sitting there for a while. I'm good, So I just did it like if I was going to a doctor's appointment, and I go in, I'll be smiling and talking. And, I was just like, I got to live the life that right now. I can't be worried about if I'm going to live back over there. I got to live right now, So I think my biggest thing was, once I got over that first little realm of who gonna take care of my kids and my husband, after I got over that, I was like, okay, I'm good to go. I can do this now, So it was points I knew in my life that I think one of the biggest things was for me was it was hard for me to pray. It was
Yes.
harder for me to
Yes.
pray than it was for me to.
Yes.
Now, if you call me and say, I need a prayer, I could be like, okay, I got you, and I'm good. But when it was
For
coming
yourself.
for praying for myself,
Yes.
it was hard for me. I couldn't
Yes.
figure out. You know, I used to hear people say, oh, I couldn't pray. And I used to be like, what? What do you mean you
Yes.
couldn't pray? You know, I never understood it until I went through cancer. And then I
Yes.
just couldn't open my mouth to say anything. I was
Right.
just like, look, you just have to hear me.
Right.
You just have to hear my silence in order to know what I need, because I don't know. I can't speak it, you know. So at that point I was really like that. I was just like, I can't speak, Lord. I don't know what to say. You know, but as far as him giving me, so he just showed me, you got the strength, you get on up and do what you need to do. You don't get to lay in the bed, you don't get to do this, you know, I never really was a person who laid in the bed and did any of that. I was like, I gotta go. I got all these kids to take care of over here. Everybody telling me, my mom used to tease me all the time. She's like, girl, you better get up, because you know you got all them kids. You ain't keeping them kids when you go. So she used to tease me all the time, you better get on up, you know. So I was up all the time, you know. So I just thank the Lord that he gave me that strength to do that. You know what I mean? He gave me the strength to keep moving, to keep pushing, you know, and keep just, you know, had that strength to just like, I got it, I can do it, you know. But he just answered a prayer that he really, I couldn't verbally say, but he knew it in my heart. You know, he was reading my heart, you know.
Yes.
Lord, you know,
Yes.
I need you.
Yes.
You know, I need you.
Yes.
Need you real bad right
Yes.
now, you
Yes.
know. And so when I went through it, it was a mental struggle. It wasn't a physical struggle like a lot of people have a physical struggle with getting it, and you know, their mind gets them into more of a depression than most things, you know. And my doctor, he was like, right after I finished my chemo and everything, and I went back, and he had me on, you have to take these pills for like 5 years. And so I was on my pills like maybe 2.5 years or 3. And he said, might have been a little longer. And he came to me and he said, you know what, I think you're going into depression. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I think so. He said, I'm gonna take you off those pills, because it's the pills. And he said, because all through chemo, you came in smiling. He said, now I can't even get nothing out of you. You ain't even looking the same right now. And so he took me off my pills and he gave me some more. And then I was good again. I said, I thought it was the blahs. I thought it was just something I was just, you know, feeling like that. And he was like, no, it's the pills. They will put you into depression. And so he said, and he took me off. And so after that, he put me on a different kind. And I stayed on. He kept me on longer than a normal 5 years. He kept me on 7. He said, just because of the cancer that I had, he kept me on for 7, and I did pretty good. But it gives you we used to call it it's straight menopausal without going through menopause. That's what
What was the name of that medication?
What was it?
Well, there's certain ones. I mean, I was on multiple, and the last one I think I was on was,
can't even think of
brain fog.
Yeah,
I have
get brain fog.
But there's several types.
Yes, different kinds. But the one he put me on was the one that they kind of put everybody on.
Yes,
it's the first one that they put all the women on. And
tamoxifen.
Tamoxifen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when I read it on the internet later on, I would read different women say, "I will not take that medicine," and I was just wondering why would they, you know, risk getting cancer again. But there was women on there would be like, I'm not taking that medicine. They would not take it for no reason at all. They said, I don't care if I get cancer back, because it sends you through this menopausal state that's like a double menopausal when you're going through. So you doing all the things that women are doing that's full menopause, but it's double. And so it's like you sweating, you know. I remember going to church and I had a short sleeve, skinny top on in the wintertime. It's like 40 degrees outside. I'm sitting up sweating, and, you know, so it sends your body through all these changes. But my thing was, I didn't want cancer again. So I was willing to take it, you know.
And it was the same way with me. It affected me a lot mentally. But again, I was to the point where I wasn't going to let anything stop. I mean, I was more afraid that it could come back than not to take it. I mean, I call them my tsunamis, because I sweat. I always had a handheld fan in my purse, my car, by my bed, always, because I would just break out of sweats for no reason, and I would feel it. but it does take your body through a lot. And I went through it from 2013 until 2017.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad to be off of everything, but those things that we've been on, you're getting so used to having that crutch because you don't want to be let go because you're afraid. You're afraid that if you don't have anything, that you can assure you that it can come back. Granted, we know that never can be 100%, but it was almost like a crutch. And so you kind of look forward to when you can move to every year, have a scan, have a checkup, just like anybody else. You want to get to that point, but you're afraid to get to that point at the same token.
I think you always have a doubt in your brain anytime you feel a lump, anytime your body changes. Sometimes you go through some changes and you don't know why you're going through some changes. I remember one time I got down a lot of pounds down and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, I'm eating the same everything. And so my doctor immediately started doing things because he's like, you lost weight too fast and and so they never found out why. But it just happened, you know what I mean? And then sometimes they'll say, oh, well, you have a cyst on your breast, and you're like, yeah, but that's not good, for me, because I've had those before, and then they end up being something else different. So there's always this thing with your body when it changes, when it does something different for you. It's like you start to get fearful, And so I started telling myself, if God deliver you, He not gonna give you that again. You might as well just go on. I started just talking to myself and telling myself that, if He delivered you from that, you may get something else. You know what I mean? But you won't get that again. So I try to do myself that way so I won't get scared every time I do a mammogram and they say, oh, you got your breast is more dense, or you got a lump, or you got an abscess. I think the last one I had was an abscess. Had one the other day. They said you have a cyst. So you get these things in your breast, but you still want to know, okay, what can I do? What can I, should I take it out? Should I, and so you get to those points in your life where you hear women say, I had breast cancer 10 years ago and it's back. I mean, I've heard that so many stories. I don't think I've ever heard anybody in a long time that to be like, I had it for 10 years and I got it back. I had it for 15 years ago and I got it back. And you was like, oh man, so it started always in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I had a breast cancer survivor lady that had it 20 years ago and it came back. And it came back a different type of cancer. Even though it was connected to the breast, but it had spread all over her liver. I mean, it was just... And it was devastating, to think that, if I got 20 years of clearance and I'll be 80, I'm good. I'm good because I feel like I'll be able to live my life and contribute to what I need to contribute. But it is scary just to think that, you don't never want to think that.
Yeah.
Yes. Audience, are there any questions for our guests? If you have some questions, please submit them now so that we can get to them and hopefully answer them tonight.
Okay, ladies. What was the most difficult part? You know what? I think we already answered. I'm going to go to the last question. What advice would you give on how to best support a loved one going through breast cancer?
Never let them be alone.
Okay.
Because most people, when they get it, they just kind of like want to be to themselves. They kind of want to, oh, I got it, or just kind of seclude themselves from people.
I was good at that. And one thing I can honestly say is that you may have family and friends and say, hey, call me if you need anything. But because I shut myself down, I told them up front, I'm not going to call you. To me, I look at it, when somebody says that I'm going to be there and help you, even if it's soup, even if it's a book, anything, you don't have to wait for me to ask, because most likely I won't ask.
That's right.
Because I feel like I'm a burden, So to me, it's to be kind and just do it because it's in your heart. I had someone that we didn't have the best relationships, but she developed it, and she eventually told me, and I told her I support her, because whatever you need, I can give you some history, I can give you this, because I know what it's like. Excuse me. She didn't live long, but I was glad that she was able to come to me despite our prior history, that I could at least give some comfort to her.
That's good. That's good. I think that's so important that we go ahead, Tammy. Were you going to say something?
I was just saying, and then let them ask questions. You know what I mean? Let them if you can help them with questions that they have, or even if you can't really give them an answer, just say, hey, let me find out for you and I'll, get back with you, or, checking on them and not necessarily just talking about the cancer, just like how you doing, and being that person that, they know, well, when I was going through, they called me, or when I was going through, they brought me some soup, or when I was going through, they were there for me. Because the biggest thing you're going to think about when you go through and you come out, you're going to be like, who was there?
Right.
Even though you may not want them there, you're going to say, who's there? That's going to be your mindset. Even if you're not holding it against them, even if you're not gonna say anything about it, but you want to know who's there for you when you're down and when you're not feeling the same, or like people used to bring me books to read. They used to bring me books. I had family members from Los Angeles send me a big box of scarves. And I don't know this thing is coming. I had people bring me in big old boxes of soak in the tub things. I mean, it was just them doing something for me to let them know that they were thinking about me. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh wow, that is so good that they were thinking about me through this time. And they can't, we may not hold conversations. I may not feel like holding conversations. I may not feel like, somebody seeing me, because when you start losing everything, you start losing all your hair. And when we say hair, people always think head. You lose hair everywhere. You just look like you just
brand new baby.
Yeah, you just blank. You don't have no eyebrows. You don't have no eyelashes. You just you. You know what I mean? So you don't want a lot of people seeing you because you feel like I look sick.
Right.
You know what I think most of us always thought we just look sick. Even if we're not feeling bad, we just look sick. We don't have no hair. Our head is bald and this. And so when people just want to stop by, they want to say hello, and you're like, and you trying to put something on, and so even if it's just a phone call, even if it's just a text. I mean, now that text is in, we didn't have texts back then that much, but now that text is in, it's like a good text is good because they know you're thinking about them, and everybody got their phone right next to them, sick or no sick. That phone is right there. Text them.
I think what a lot of people are afraid of, you lose the friendship and that connection because when you get cancer, they don't know what to say. Yeah, and I do that all the time. I didn't know what to say. Well, you didn't have to say anything. I mean, I'm still the same. I may be sick and going through it, but I'm still the same person. I had to say corny things sometimes to make myself laugh. I had to joke about myself because if I didn't, I would cry. So that's one thing that you want people to realize is sometimes you don't have to say anything, but just be who you were when you first met me, before the cancer, because it ain't changed me on that aspect.
Right. Wow. I love it, ladies. You ladies are, y'all need to take it on the road. Y'all are very encouragers on this type of. Yeah. I'm so glad you guys knew each other. I didn't even know you knew each other. That's a blessing. We have one question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We had the same doctors.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Now see, that's a blessing.
Same Reconstruction doctor,
Is that right?
Yes. Doctor, yes.
Wow, that is awesome. You guys are good together. Let me just say that. I'm gonna. I think I had a question up here from Marie. I think I saw something. Good evening. Okay, I thought I saw where you were coming. I thought I saw a question. Here we go. Was it recommended to be followed also by nutritionists to help with healing?
No, to be honest with you, that's part of the team effort that the hospitals, because they were small doctor's offices. Like I said, it's not a big cancer center. So they didn't have that core team to tell you this. So when you're going through things, whether it's not eating, it was really the nurse that's in the office. She would give you some information, but I've discovered even up recently that my insurance has all that information to you. But again, when you're so down, you don't want to make that first move. It'll be so much helpful if they kind of initiate it and show you, here's this available, here's that available. There's no care team like that. And that's something that's needed, because I had to change a lot of things that I ate then and even now, because after all these years, I still have body problems, whether it's my stomach. I've had a stent placed in my heart, which as a result of the radiation. So I've had to change a lot of things, but nobody really kind of follows you that. You have to learn that as you go, based off the pains, aches, things. And that will be part of a good, helpful thing, and some type of relaxation techniques,
I think they're coming up with teams now. But back when we did it in 2008, they wasn't really doing that type of information. But I think they're getting like different cancer, because before I think it was just CCC was the only one. CBCC was the only one that you really knew about. Now they have Dignity, and they got other cancer centers that's coming in. So I think they're trying to do a little bit more of, giving you information. I was never given any information on what to eat or what not to eat, only from maybe somebody who was looking online after you got it, and they start looking online for you, but not from a medical perspective. And I think if they did some things from a medical perspective, not even just giving you nutrition, but helping you deal emotionally, helping you deal with what to eat and what's good for what you're doing, and just have a support team, period.
Even the skincare, because the chemo makes your skin so dry. And being a Black female, I had that problem really bad. And so I've tried so many different products that not everything over the counter works for us. Our skin type is different. So, we kind of look for, I have had history of lymphedema. I've had to search for a therapist here in Bakersfield, because again, those things weren't in existence. And you want someone, not just a massage therapist, you want someone that specializes in lymphedema, because a massage therapist can do more damage. So you do need those unique things that's really not, I'm hoping because of Dignity Health has opened up as much as it have, and with Rio Bravo, that those are the things that they see as needed when we look at the whole complete care team.
Because if you go to I went to a cancer center up in Los Angeles. It's called the Roy Disney Cancer Center, and I was there for something different. It wasn't cancer, but they was going to do radiation on my brain, so they have a whole team of people. And I'm like, when you walk through that door, I mean, there's people at you everywhere, handing you books, pulling you this way, giving you this information, sending you home with stuff. And I was like, I'm not even here for all of that. But they were giving it to me just as if I was a cancer patient. And they were giving me all this stuff. And I was like, that's what we need. We need them to do that for us so that we can get all this information and how we can provide for ourselves when we're going through. They had a physical team that did, like exercises. They had a massage person. They had all this stuff that you can just build yourself back up with, and we don't have that in Bakersfield, unless they're just now starting it. Put it that way.
But again, I think a lot of the stuff also needs to be geared towards the minority community, because there's a lot more out there than what we know. Some of them don't even go to any type of support group, and COVID kind of diminished a lot of that. But once it opens up again, that's something I would hope to get restarted back, is that we need something that's specifically for the minorities. I mean, there's Links for Life, Mercy Southwest has one, but there's nothing that's really geared towards, like it says, I was the youngest and I was the only Black, so the things that I said, it was funny to them, some things, because how I said it and how I grew up with, it was funny to them. But, I want somebody that's on the same level, that understands. And if they don't, we can be on the same level, because I could teach them what I've been through. And not saying that everybody goes through the same, but at least they have a better idea.
I love it. I might have to call you ladies afterwards and see if we can go down to Dignity Health or somewhere and talk with them, so that we can put women of color on the radar. These are the things that happen, and you guys have actually experienced that. So be in prayer with me about that. We might have to go check that out.
Because if you're not willing to dig it out for yourself, you're not going to find it.
Wow. So in 2021,
right?
That's the crazy part. In 2021, Shug has shared with me, I think, that she was not able to get the support that she needed when she went through. Shug, you want to share a little bit of that?
No.
What year was you diagnosed?
How are we gonna let the people know? You got to share a little bit.
And that was my biggest story. My biggest story was when I called and was telling my brother, and my first thing was I had to make a decision if I was gonna tell anybody. Right. But the Lord was like, if you don't tell nobody, how they gonna pray for you? Because later on, I couldn't pray for myself. So if I wasn't praying for myself and I didn't tell nobody, who was going to be praying for me?
That's good.
Nobody. So I had to open up my story, because we get the time where we say, well, we don't want to tell anybody because we don't know what they just want to know, because they just want to be nosy. Right. They just want to know because they want to tell my business. They want to know because, and we got all these excuses. But what about the people who go lay down and get on their knees and pray for you? Who go lay prostrate and be like, I'm praying for her today. And, so I had to get my story out, because at first I was like, I'm not telling nobody, because I don't want nobody coming and doing this and doing that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, you gonna tell somebody. Because I was the same one that, I was, why me, Lord? And I could just literally hear him say, why not you? And I was just like, oh, okay, let me think about that thing. Why not you? Yeah. If you believe and trust and have faith in me, why not you? Yeah. But that was my first question. Why me, Lord? Yeah. But it was just like, no, because you the one that's gonna go through it. You the one gonna have to tell your testimony to somebody else that's gonna need to go through it too. So you just need to go on, get it together, and come on with it. But those are our first thoughts. Those are our first minds of what we go do.
And my biggest issue at first, I didn't have a problem telling people. But I went back to work after a year, and what I noticed that when I would tell people, first thing they do is look at your chest, and it's like, that's not what I'm talking to you about, because again, I ended up having nothing. So it took me 10 years to get comfortable to the point where, I have no shame. And when they look at I'm like, no, I don't have none. I don't have a problem saying that. Yeah. But that was one of the things also is the self-confidence,
And you have that either way. I mean, when you have Reconstruction, it don't come back like if somebody went to go get, they just went to go get some. They, they had their own, they went to go get some. They look all nice or whatever. Yours not going to look like that. Yours going to have a scar across.
Right.
There's a whole lot of different things going to happen. So you physically have to deal with that mentally. Yes. It's like, this is what I have. This is it. You know what I mean? And so it takes a lot to go through what you go through, but if you just trust and believe it, you can do it.
Yes. And I think it's awfully awesome that you ladies don't have. I mean, probably at one time you wouldn't share like you're doing today. Probably at one time, I'm just saying. But I think it's awesome that you ladies choose to share your story to help somebody else. And I have a lady on here. I think Whitmore. She wants to say that she says she's currently going through the reconstruction process, and I'm having a difficult time sleeping at night. Did either of you experience insomnia?
Oh, yeah. We still have insomnia. We've had insomnia ever since. It's just it's a body thing, You learn to live with it. Miss Shy, you just learn to live with it. You can learn to say what sleep I do get. I appreciate that sleep, and you just keep going. Because one day you go sleep. But right now, because you're mentally going through and your body's going through and you got pain and you have all this, it's just...
You're never going to shut down. You can have some sleep, but you'll have breakthrough. If you can try some melatonin, that's what I kind of went through. I even went through some Tylenol PM because there was times where I would have a breakthrough sleep or have dreams. I woke up feeling like I was on some acid or something. I was spazzed out. I was just, and I got to the point where I couldn't eat. So you have to find something, read a book, if that'll help. But even if you have to take some melatonin, because I still suffer from it. I still do. And I think that's going to be part of how we deal with the side effects of everything that we've gone through.
And for me, I had insomnia before I had cancer, so I would just kind of make it a joke with that. But you really do have to find something to help you sleep. Tylenol PMs were good for me, but Tylenol PMs would only put me to sleep for a couple of hours. But I would sleep real hard, so I felt like I didn't slept all day. And so, and melatonin just put me to sleep later. If I take it at 8, I don't go to sleep till about 1 or 2, 3, and then I got to get up at 5. So it just depends. You find what you can use and what to help you sleep, but because your mind is still thinking about the process of what you're going to go through, and you do the reconstruction. Is this going to be my last reconstruction? Am I have another reconstruction? Because once they do this reconstruction, then they need to do this one to do this part of it, and so it's a long process. So just try to get as much sleep as you can, and find the things that's simple to take, that's not going to be effective to your body, because remember, your body just went through chemo, and so going through chemo, it messes with you on your sleep. So you have to just like find something basically like melatonin.
Well,
or
I
Tylenol.
also take naps. I take naps. Before I never used to take naps, but now it's like I got to get my naps. I do feel it, especially when I don't sleep well at all. I have to get my naps in. So sorry, Shy, but thanks, and hang in there.
Yeah, you got it, girl.
And Glenda, what I will say is Psalms 118:17 that says, I will not die, but I will live and proclaim what the Lord has done. And all I can say is that God is a healer.
Yes, he is.
And in time, you will hear my story. Yes. But for now, just know that God is a healer.
Yes, he is.
Psalms 118:17.
Yes.
And we all have our scriptures that we rely on and we trust in. Yes. That got us through those times. It's like that one scripture that just gets you. Mine was Jeremiah 29:11, and it carried me on through. I just carried it on my back and went on through with it.
That's it.
So you'll tell your story when you get ready to, and it's good. When you tell it, it's gonna be a testimony for somebody that's listening,
and it'll be your story.
Yes, and it'll be at the right time.
That's it. Maria, as far as the genetic testing, I was fortunate enough to get the genetic testing because in the beginning, like I said, I didn't know anyone in my family who had breast cancer. So when I did take it, I was negative. I didn't have any other traits. But again, subsequently later, I found out that on my father's side, that his children, his other niece, his daughter had it, and his sister. So that's good to know that it's offering it to women of color, because again, I don't think, what I've heard through people is that they've had to really push and fight for it. And I encourage, again, that's part of taking care of yourself, knowing as much information as you know, especially if you have daughters, because you don't want to pass that trait on. And if you do, you want to prepare them to make the right decisions. And so I would just push that. And Natera is the company, that is good. But can you get that through any of the oncologists here in Bakersfield? Again,
well, Dignity Health,
that's good.
Their new program, they have genetic testing, because I went to them last year when they found the cyst, and she was like, well, look, can we do some genetic testing? And I was like, I've already been through it. I did all that already. I didn't do genetic testing, but I did, find out that I had family members. I found out a couple of different things. So I decided not to do it at that particular time. But I know Dignity Health is a new cancer center that's in town. And as soon as I went, she wanted to go ahead and do genetic testing.
That's good.
Thank you. She said, yes, you have an advocate for yourself. Yes.
You have to, because again, only you know your body.
Right.
And again, doctors will be dismissive because sometimes we tell them what we think, and of course they want to know what it is. They want to determine what it is. But when we know something is different with our bodies, we have to speak up and hold truth to that. And don't let that go. Prove me wrong is my only thing. I will fight to the death until you prove me wrong. And when you prove me wrong, you better show it to me in writing. It ain't your word. It's not gonna never be your word because I said so. I'm sorry. I'm hard-headed like that. You know, I know how to read.
But I think when you're young
That's
and
good.
you get cancer, it's hard. It's harder because they're not looking for you to have cancer.
Yes.
So I think that's why you have to advocate for what's going on within your body.
Yeah.
You know, you can say my body's changing, this happening, this is done, because they don't look for people at 40. They be like, oh no, you're good. We barely doing a mammogram on you right now. You know, so people under 40 people under 40 that's getting it, they're not really listening to them. Right. Oh, that's just this, or that may just, oh, that's just a cyst, and you know, and whatever. And so you have to really say, hey, it may be a cyst, but I need to get it biopsy so I can see that it's just a cyst, or I can see what's really going on with me.
Wow.
And Marie, even though they offered the managed health care, I had a managed health care, but again, I had to ask. Again, there was not I had a doctor's office the way I went to my treatment. So I had a nurse that provided the medication. They had flyers and pamphlets, but they didn't have a nurse care team that went by and said X, Y, and Z. These are the things that I think you may be interested. You know, anything that I found out, I was the one to initiate it. You know, and so what would be nice, because again, people are not going to know what to ask and when to ask. And so if those services are just there as part of your care, it would be so much helpful, because your mind, you like says today you hear you got cancer, you just forget about everything. Yeah. So if you had someone to help you through this process, that would be the ideal thing. You know, and again, Bakersfield, it may be getting on the boat to that, but I know at that time it wasn't so much. Now, if they're getting on the boat, they need to share that information with everyone so that they can know that.
That's good. I think I have one more here. This is good, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions on our chat line? I think I got a private chat from somebody from Linda Factory. It's 7:04. It's what, 7:12 now? Sorry. This is just a good topic. Just a good topic. Yes. Just a good topic. Okay, ladies, would you like to have any closing remarks? You have been absolutely helpful and informational tonight, and we're glad that you shared your personal stories. We're just glad, and we're glad most of all that God kept you here so you could share your personal story and help other women. So we're grateful for that. And then we're gonna wait on Miss Pam. We're gonna wait on Pam to share her story.
We're always here.
We're gonna wait.
When it's her turn, it's gonna be her turn.
Oh yes,
Can't nobody tell your story like yourself.
That's right. So we thank you, ladies. If there's nothing else, we got a lot of hand claps down here. They're enjoying this. So we just thank you so much, and that's what our purpose for it, NSLB, is to share what we know out in the community. So we're just thankful to be on here tonight. And we're thankful that you ladies came on and shared your story. I can't say it enough, because I'm grateful that we're finally trying to get out to our community and let people know. We don't know a lot of things you ladies said tonight. I didn't even know. But if it should ever happen to me, I can remember what you said.
Yes, and we're always here and available.
And I love that. Somebody on here said we might have.
So they can always look me up also. You know,
what you say? I'm sorry. Say it again, Sherry.
If I'm on Facebook, you can always look me up, because a lot of people don't ask questions in an open forum. So feel free to contact me. You know, if I can point you to the right direction, give you just some word of comfort, you know, just the reassurance, talk to you. That's what I'm here for. And it's reach one, teach one.
That's right.
You know, that's kind of my goal.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. So ladies, we're going to end now. We're going to go into our announcements and then it'll be over. But again, I want to thank both of you. I've heard Tammy's story. I think I've even did a personal interview with Tammy. And it just still always amazes me, women that have come through. And I think what I now that I know that you know, Sherry, you had when we talked before, but when I see women that are willing to, Tammy was always an up person. And I think the only time I've ever seen her down was when she started first going through, but she's always been an up person. She's always the one that encourages other people. you know, and even after having gone through, both of you are still encouragers to other people. You know, you can still say that, you know, I felt down and I wish somebody would encourage me, but that's okay because you ladies are encouragers, and I love you both so very much. Love you both.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to move right on into our announcements. And Pam, I'm going to have you go on and do the announcements, dear.
Well, all right. November 6th will be our Higher Education Empowerment Program fall session. So if you're interested in obtaining a college degree, a trade at the UC level, the CSU level, community college, please go to our website and sign up. We have a program that will help you go back to college, and it's for women ages 18 to 44, but we'll accept anyone even over that. So if you're interested in obtaining a college education, again, please let us help you on that journey. So go to No Sister Left Behind, the number 2.org/programs and sign up, please. November 6th will be our first, not our first, but it will be our fall session.
Tammy, sorry. Can I say something? Can I interject right here? What I want to let you know is a little bit about the program. Just tell you a little bit about it. It's not just something that we talk about financial aid and how to get admitted into college, but we talk about a lot of things. We talk about the barriers that Black women have in their lives for them not moving forward to go to get a higher education. So it's not that we just talk about school. You need to come and listen to Jessica talk about your mindset, and Deborah talk about the family dynamics. You know, you have to get your family prepared for you to go back to college. You know, if you have kids at home, even a husband, you know, at the beginning, they might be all happy for you and glad, but then when you get deep and you got to study and you got to be up all night, you can't come to bed, then it's a barrier. And so we talk about your mindset, how you got to make sure, even you might have to close that book and go to bed. But we talk about so many things other than just school. So I want you to know that it's more than just that. We talk about those things about depression, going through school and depression. So, and even in all of that, we want to give you the tools and the support that you need to make it through. They've given us a grant to lift those numbers for Black women going to college. We don't stop at 44. If you want to come down next Saturday from 10 to 2 and listen to what we talk about, come on down. You don't even have to register. Don't register. If you don't feel like you want to register, you just want to come down and see what we talk about, come on down. I'm telling you, you're gonna be changed when you leave there, because they talk about more things that of the barriers for Black women. We taking care of kids, we taking care of grandma, we taking grandpa, we taking care of all these things, and we don't watch out for ourselves. And you might have the desire to go back to college. For me, going back, it's just something I want to accomplish that I started that I never finished. And it's always been lingering in the back of my mind for almost 45 years. All I'm saying is that if you have the desire to go back to college, go back. Come down and listen to just if you just want to sit in, come on down. 10 o'clock at 1431 L Street. Just come on down and sit down and listen to what these ladies are talking about your mindset, about determination, and all those things that'll help you get through if you're thinking about going back to college. That's all I got to say. Because you will see a different side of us just talking about come down for the Higher Education Empowerment Program. And I just thought that needed to be said, because I think a lot of people think that we're just talking education. Yeah, we're talking education, but we're talking about those barriers that Black women have had to break down or do to finish their higher education empowerment, the higher education. So think about it. Just think about it and come down and visit us. I'm sorry, Pam. Go ahead.
Very well. You did a great job. Thank you. And what about November 13th?
Oh, the Black Infant Health Program. Our kids, our Black children are being born or are passing before the age of 2 at a much higher rate than any other race. So we're going to have the Black Infant Health Program come down, and they're going to talk to us about it that night.
Okay, and since you're on the roll, what about November 20th?
What's November 20th? It's all about gardening. all about gardening. We're gonna feature Bonnie Crowder. She's an avid gardener, and she's also a contributor to our sister network newsletter for NSLB. So we're gonna have her on, and Bonnie is the daughter of a farmer from back in Louisiana. So she's gonna talk a lot about it. And then we're gonna have Kevin. Kevin Milburn is on Facebook, and he has Garden Fun with Kevin Milburn. If you guys know Kevin, he's this bubbly kind of guy. So he does this gardening now. So Kevin got his hand in a lot of pots, but we are so glad because he's so enthused about everything he does. And he carries it all the way through, and he'll get you enthused as well. So those are the two that we're going to have for gardening. They're going to tell you, a lot of people are getting into their own self gardens, growing their own vegetables and fruits and all those kind of things. Again, when we grew up, our aunt had a garden in the backyard where she would just go outside and get the stuff that she needed, peaches and strawberries, everything. So it was always good and delicious. But, we got away from that. The next generation comes on, we get away from all that. So yeah, I'm sorry. This is gardening.
No, you're doing good. Anything else that you'd like to share?
Let's see. Get vaccinated. I'm gonna get you later, Pam. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. I know we got a lot of mysteries, but find out for yourself. Gain knowledge for yourself about the vaccinations. A lot of people's excuse, they go back to the Tuskegee shots that they gave, Black people a long time ago. But you know what? I say this. If you'll send your kids with vaccinations to school, and you turn this down, I'm trying to understand that. You just need to get a vaccination so we can get over COVID, so we can get done with it. And if you need more knowledge on it, I suggest that you seek knowledge on taking the shot, taking the COVID shot. So that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Well, before we close, I just want to thank everybody who stopped by our booth at Fireproof Conference at Greater Harvest Christian Center. We had a great time. Everybody who signed up, I thank you. I did a call for 25 people to join as members before the end of the year. And I just want to thank those 4 who signed up, those 4 phenomenal women who signed up. And I got something for you too. Those 4 women that signed up as members, but it's not too late. It's not too late. I just need 21 more before the end of the year. So please consider No Sister Left Behind and become a member. So we can bring this type of information to the community, as everybody knows it's well needed.
Yeah. It's good.
And I think that's all that I have to say.
All right. Well, listen, again, I want to acknowledge our guests, Ms. Tammy Fanning and Sherry Harrison. We appreciate both of you ladies, and we love you.
Yes.
We love you. We love you. We love you. And we thank you for being on our show. And before I leave the show, Tammy's already a partner with No Sister Left Behind. I can call Tammy anytime, and she always give me a lead on something to go somewhere. But Sherry, I'm going to ask if you would be a partner of No Sister Left Behind. And someone put in the chat that maybe we should have a support system for Black women. Whatever they may not know, if they contract, cancer, whatever they might know, we can call on one of you ladies to talk with them, or maybe set up some type of session where they can ask you questions, how you felt. And I think you ladies are free flowing and being able to encourage someone and tell them exactly how you feel. Y'all don't rub no elbows. It's just the truth. And I love that. And so I think that maybe we will consider that we do some type of support group for Black women. If we do it maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, something like that, where we can encourage women that are going through. So I think that's much needed, because we're hearing that in the chat. And so Rachel Hubbard says a special thanks to both of you, because people needed to hear this. They need to hear this. So I want to thank you once again for being on NSLB Live and sharing this information. God bless both of you and everyone else. We thank you for being in our chat. We thank our audience tonight, and I want everyone to have a good evening. Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Linda, for always being back here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
You.
Have a good evening.
Bye.